Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is going to be another video, this time a first impressions of the Kayle and Morgana reworks, although I do believe that Morgana is just a visual update and a slight change to her R, but Kayle is a full-fledged rework, and so if Riot has anything going for them with the last couple of reworks, they have been absolutely fantastic with the Aatrox, Akali, and Irelia. Alright, so let's just move right into it. Morgana update. It says that split between her mortal and celestial self, but wholly opposed to the unyielding ideology of her twin sister, the Dark Enchantress has been visually updated to match her divine origin. Morgana, bound by her wings by choice, reflecting her connection to humanity and our shared suffering, but her ultimate reveals her birthright. In addition, the Fallen Shadowy spells have new animations and visual vibrancy, already a powerful pick in mid and bot lane, says who. Morgana's abilities remain the same, save for her ultimate, which now grants movement speed towards enemies to ensure they can't escape their share of torment. Okay, so having increased MS inside of her ultimate is really, really good for her, but the problem is that Morgana is going to still suffer the same exact fate, where as long as her Q and her Black Shield are still completely fine and their ratios haven't really been changed, then that's all that she's really picked for. You're not really thinking, oh man, if I have the MS with my ultimate, then I'm just suddenly going to be this monstrous champion. Do I think that it can help set up kills inside of the mid lane or bottom lane that maybe the current Morgana can't? Yes, but I think that that's going to only occur in very few situations. So I don't think that it's going to be the biggest change. So unless her ratios are changed somewhere, either inside of her Q, her W, or her R, or maybe something really oppressive with her E shield, base stats or something, or maybe AP ratio scaling, don't expect, I think, Morgana to shift into the middle lane by any means, and I entirely just suspect that she'll continue to remain a support that ends up getting Zhonya's Hourglass and then does Morgana things. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now we're going to move into Kayle, passive, Divine Ascend. Kayle ascends through 4 forms before reaching her divine state. Ooh, okay, Zealous. Kayle's attacks grant stacking attack speed at max stacks. Kayle becomes exalted and gains movement speed towards enemies. How quickly do the stacks fall off? I'm not sure. A Flame, level 6. When Kayle is exalted, her attack... when Kayle is exalted, her attacks launch flaming waves dealing bonus magic damage. So again, how many stacks does it take to get exalted? Arisen. Kayle evolves into, or Arisen, whatever. Kayle evolves into a fully ranged champion. Okay. Transcendent, level 16. Kayle takes on her final form, becoming permanently exalted. Her flaming waves deal true damage. Twitch chat is informing me that it is a 5-stack passive, so let's take a look. That is very short range, although that might be Aurelia range. I actually can't tell just from the video. It is looking a little bit like Aurelia range, in which case I guess that's kind of okay for her. Kayle, max attack, Kayle becomes exalted and gains movement speed towards enemies. Okay. Alright, so one of the first thoughts is that if she wants to build AP heavy or on hit, then her base stats have to be, her like base HP, base armor, etc. is going to need to be worthwhile. Because you can't take a melee champion like this into the middle lane, I'm assuming, especially because it takes too long for her to get range at level 11. So I think that that could definitely be problematic, which means that it does look like she is likely going to go up into the top lane. Now, like all videos that I talk about, okay, I will point out that it is not saying against enemy champions. Okay, so what this means is that she could be a jungler. All right. Just wait for it. But all right, let's move into Celestial Blessing. All right, Kayle heals herself and a target ally. Oh. Okay, Kayle heals herself and a target ally, giving both a significant burst of movement speed. Okay. Oh, I skipped Q. Oh, okay. Radiant Blast. Kayle conjures a portal which shoots a flaming blade at an enemy, shredding armor and magic resist and slowing her target. I don't know if the shred is percentage or flat. If it's flat, this can be really scary in synergy with Wit's End. And then obviously, if she has Sork penetration boots, then I think that this is really, really, really great. If it's a percentage, then I don't think that it's as great. Oh. That's a lot of damage. Huh? How does a portal which shoots a flaming blade at an enemy shredding? So it's a point and click. Oh, that's great. I'm assuming it's point and click. I can't see her mouse, but That's really great. Shredding armor and magic resist and following her target. This attack explodes to damage enemies next to the target as well. That is fantastic. That is a beautiful new Q. Absolutely love it. And it says target, so I guess that's an AoE, which could help for jungling. W, Celestial Blessing. Kayle heals herself and target ally, giving both a significant burst of movement speed. Okay, I really like that now it's able to do both. Obviously, it depends what the ratio is. It depends what the base is on it. Because if the base scaling on it is really, really high, the way that her Q looks right now and the way that her passive is, maybe you just end up maxing W, but not entirely sure. But again, it comes down to the base ratios on Q and W as well. E, Starfire Spellblade. Passive. Kayle's basic attacks deal bonus damage, which scale with both her ability power and attack damage. So Kassadin on steroids. So if Kassadin is looking to swipe right on Tinder, this is the girl that he wants to do it with. Active. Kayle's next basic attack is ranged and deals a portion of the target's missing health as bonus magic damage. After ascending to a flame, this attack damages enemies next to the target as well. A flame is what? Level 6. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Wait. Okay. Now, obviously, I don't know what the cooldown is on this, but so when you see stuff with champions that can scale with both AD and AP, it's always a little bit of a nightmare because champions like Akali, I was very adamant that they were balanced solely around Gunblade. Now, I don't know if Gunblade would be an item of choice because it does look like Kayle is going to want to have attack speed and whatnot, but depending on how strong her base scaling is on stacking attack speed, maybe she doesn't actually need to itemize attack speed all that much, which might mean that maybe we can get an interesting build like Nashor's Tooth with Gunblade, and then in which case that can be very scary, depending on if you can then just follow up with like Wit's End and whatever else. And also because she doesn't have this permanent reliance on her E like the previous Kayle did in order to be a ranged champion, it does mean that maybe the CDR isn't that important as it was to the previous Kayle, where I believe that you needed 36.7% CDR or something like that, or it's like 37.6. It's some weird number like that in order to maintain the permanent ranged attack. And so because this Kayle's gameplay seems fundamentally different from that, this opens up Kayle to have a lot more itemization possibilities that can definitely make her a lot scarier. And so I'm really liking how all of this looks. Next base attack and Rin deals portion of the target's missing health as bonus magic damage. Now, when you entertain percentage ratios, now this is missing health, not this isn't max HP, so it's not like Kayle can just build tanky, which if this was max HP, I would begin to think that we potentially have the makings of an off-tanky type champion that wants to stack attack speed, have sustain. Imagine some sort of like a tank Akali type thing, or like a previous tank Echo that might be able to be really annoying with obviously the W heal, the MS, and then the slows and whatnot that the champion can gain access to. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. One of the things that I'm thinking right off the bat is obviously Gunblade can be really scary, in addition to Nashor's Tooth. Lichbane is definitely also looking like maybe it's going to be very viable on her as well, but I'm not really getting the vibe of like the Wit's End, Runon's Hurricane, Nashor's Tooth type Kayle that just wants to stack attack speed. Obviously, Guinsoo's Rageblade is probably going to be fantastic on her because if she has MR, an armor shred already inside of her kit, and then she's able to get more, and then depending on what the new Conqueror rune is, this is all making to look Kayle actually look quite nice. So we'll see if her R is actually still the same. Divine Judgment. Kayle bestows invulnerability on herself or a target ally for a few seconds. While invulnerable, purifying swords fall in a circle around her target, damaging enemies in the area. Oh, Swords of Revealing Light. Cool. Target can't attack for 3 turns. 3 enemies. Coincidence? I think not. Konami and Riot Games are... That is a lot of damage. What? That is a big area. And both of you are invulnerable. Someone in Twitch chat is telling me that Kayle is incapable of attacking while she ults, but I don't think that that matters. Now, I'm curious what the range on this is. So, okay, I'm thinking she can't be a mid laner. And the reason that well, then again, I mean, Akali, but Akali had a different type of sustain. Akali was a nuisance for other problems. And the type of champions that would give Kayle a problem are very popular right now inside of the mid lane. So unless her E cooldown is like really, really, really low and she's able to throw out ranged attacks really often, I don't think that she can be a mid laner. The fact that she's able to generate these passive stacks and have AoE and then eventually it deals true damage, I mean, this is another thing that's really scary potentially for like tank Kayle. Is that if she ends up hitting level 16 and her flaming waves deal true damage, well now if she's off tanky hybrid like Guinsu's Gunblade and then tank, so she has a lot of healing and then tanky stats. That's something that comes to mind immediately when I think about her. And then also having percentage missing health on her E. I really want to see her ratios to know what kind of builds are going to be viable on her, but I'm really liking that I actually can't imagine a clear-cut path without knowing them yet. Because what that means is that she could potentially have multiple viable paths that open up different types of gameplay. But regardless, unless the E cooldown's really low, I don't think that she can end up in the mid lane. However, she does look like she has possibility to end up as a top laner, a support potentially, depending on what her base healing is, and again, what is the cooldown on her cooldown on her Q, because of the slow. So obviously the Q and the W. We have seen support Kayle historically in competitive play at some points. But the thing about support Kayle is that she'd never really gain access to the true damage, and she'd really never transcend inside of competitive games. Although she would get to level 11 and become a fully ranged champion, I'm not quite sure exactly what her range is. You know, hopefully it's not something like 500 range. Because if Kayle has 550 range or more, this is really oppressive against a lot of champions, and this creates a very scary spike at level 11. So in this case, I'm loving this. This rework is giving me the same vibes that Aatrox gave me. It's giving me the same vibes that Akali gave me. This is looking like it can be a really, really scary champion that's able to be flexed. My ADC player from BBQ is a little bit unhappy right now with one of his teammates, so you're going to have to ignore that in the background. No big deal. All right, so that's pretty much it. Get some monkas in the chat, but regardless, I like this. I'm getting Aatrox vibes, and if anyone remembers when I did the first impressions on Aatrox, I was one of the first people that said that his kit was busted. Everyone else was like, "Oh, this kit sucks. This kit isn't really that good." No, Aatrox's kit was fantastic, and if anyone eventually came to see the rise of Aatrox, then he was just a monster. In competitive, he was a monster in solo queue. He was able to be flexed into different positions. He was mid, top, jungle. Aatrox went wherever he wanted, and it was great. And so Kayle, I'm getting a similar vibe for top, jungle, and support. All right, now let's take a look at Kayle gameplay. So let's just read this first. As Kayle, you'll smite the unjust with celestial powers, which scale higher each time you transform. Before you can wreak havoc on the guilty, play around your opponents and farm cautiously until you have your ultimate ability. In this early stage, use Starfire Spellblade to keep enemies at bay and Radiant Blast to punish their overconfidence. Soon your Divine Ascent transforms your ordinary abilities into obliterating vehicles of destruction. Rally your team together and find groups of opponents who cannot escape Divine Judgment using Celestial Blessing if you or an ally struggle, or to close the distance on fleeing enemies, okay? Let's take a look here. So she's against an Ornn, so this is already unrealistic. Ornn would never be showing the light of day in top lane unless they're intentionally trying to lose games. Fnatic. Okay. Kha'Zix didn't recognize... Okay. Alright. Kayle and Morgana, same team. Let's take a look here. Pool looks the same. That ultimate is so gross. Wait a minute, how many seconds was that? Whoa, 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 whoa. It's cast on her, right? I don't know, not yet. 30? That's a 3-second invulnerability. Oh, that might be a rank 3 ult. That might be a rank 3 ult. She's level 17 in this clip. She does so much damage. Yes. Yes, Riot. Yes. Let the brokenness flow through the rift. Yes. I'm always a fan of imbalance. I love it. Zoe needs buffs. Oh, yes. Good. 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 Warwick not on the same page with his team doesn't really matter. That is amazing damage. Now, obviously, I don't know what her itemization is, but that looks really good. That genuinely looked very good. That ultimate is extremely oppressive. And the way that the meta is right now, there are plenty of mid, top, and jungle champions that can certainly utilize that. That's fantastic. This is super fantastic. Tips and tricks. Rather than use Divine Judgment on yourself, consider protecting a tanky ally with a great engage. Let enemies blow their ultimates while your ally is invulnerable. Yes, the stages of your Divine Descent give you huge power spikes. I love that too. I love quest champions like this, right? Obviously, a lot of people consider Kassadin to be one of them. I was already taking a look at the skins, but we'll go through them one more time. This splash, not really, doing anything for me. This reminds me of Nova from StarCraft. That's basically the vibe I'm getting here, although her eyes are pitch black. I forget what the movie is where the people have pitch black eyes, but yeah, she's basically possessed. You don't want to get in bed with her, after a night at the club. This is, she's trying to red pill you or blue pill you. This is really tragic, so unfortunate here. This skin looks still the same. This is like if the or Pink joined a full-on rock band with random people. So we got Slipknot. We got Slipknot 2. We got Lady Gaga, because who knows what's going on in her career. And then all the way back here, I mean, we got some guy on guitar. I'm not quite sure what's going on. We got Claire Redfield after she went blonde. So that's pretty nice. And then right here we got the Silver Surfer. Although this looks like something out of a movie. What movie was it? Annihilation? Is the movie Annihilation with... I forgot what her name is. Anne Hathaway or something? I think it's... Oh yeah, it could be Jill Valentine, but... Natalie Portman. Yeah, sorry, Natalie Portman. Annihilation. This gives me that vibe. This is Zoe all grown up, or this is, what is it, Maddie Zingler or something? The girl that sings in Sia's music videos. She looks like she's all grown up and she's finally had enough of your shit, and she's about to let you know that she is a teenage billionaire. And you are not about to be very happy. This is Taylor Swift if she hit level 16, so that's all we got going there. Now we're going into the Morgana skins. These are the ones that aren't really that happy. This cat hasn't been fed in like 10 weeks, so we're going to have to get some PETA involved here, although I don't know. Yeah, you guys can see that in the video. This, again, I talked about this earlier on stream. This looks like Morgana was like holding out for Arthas, and despite being as wet as she might be, she ended up just having to reach out and call over Stitches to try to, satisfy her, so unfortunate there. And then right here, this looks like Noob Saibot got hit by a Q, which is perfectly fine. I'm not really quite sure what to do about this, but it does look like Wolf is cheating on Lamb, and I've seen enough videos to know where Wolf's going, okay? So, and then we come over to this one. I'm getting an Annie vibe here, so I'm thinking that Morgana and Annie might be, something. I mean, Annie probably threw Morgana in the cage, and that's why we see the shackles, and Morgana's, life service now is just to cook for Annie. And, I mean, that makes sense. You play Annie in gold, silver, bronze, or iron, and all that you're going to do is face Morganas and win, so... I guess, Riot has that down point. This looks like Victoria Morgana, and all I got to point out is that her mascara is running and that there seems to be a king's crown on the pillow right here. And, the only reason I think about that is because no one wants to marry Victorious Morgana. It should have probably been Victorious Kale. So, recapping one last time. Gives me Aatrox vibes from the rework. I think that this champion might have several viable build paths. I think that she can be flexed. I'm loving it. I'm giving it an S+. Great.